Whether you're dreaming of becoming a lead teacher, stepping into your first director role, or leading a thriving childcare program of your own, you don't have to figure it out alone. Welcome to the Childcare Director's Chair, where leadership coach, speaker, co-author, and multi-center owner Erica Sakosio shares the wisdom she's gained from decades of leading successful early childhood programs and developing future leaders. Each episode is designed to help you use your voice, lead with confidence, build a positive workplace culture, and become the kind of leader your team is excited to follow. Expect real talk, big laughs, bold leadership truth, practical strategies, and the encouragement to believe in yourself every step of the way. Because when Erica teaches leadership, she's teaching what she's lived. The Child Care Director's Chair is proudly sponsored by WatchMeGrow, supporting childcare leaders with innovative technology that helps build stronger programs and stronger family connections. Together, they believe leadership isn't a title, it's an action. Pull up your chair, future leader. Here's Erica Sakosio.
Hey guys, it's your girl Erica here, and you are tuned into the Child Care Director's Chair podcast, the most fun that you can have on a podcast in ECE, but you already know that. That's why you're here. I am so excited for this episode today, but again, I'm always excited, so that's nothing new. I'm going to ask you a question. What happens when a child care program grows faster than its systems, or when the owner suddenly realizes that HR is about more than hiring, firing, and paperwork? Today, we're talking about the HR side of childcare leadership and that many owners and directors are expected to figure out as they go along. You know, one of the 99 jobs that you signed up for but didn't know you signed up for. From protecting your program and supporting your teachers to handling those difficult conversations, documentation, policies, and employee challenges. There's a lot sitting under that HR umbrella, don't we know it? But if you don't have a full HR department, this episode is for you. We're going to break down what leaders really need to know, where they might be leaving themselves a little bit vulnerable, and when it's time to bring in an HR specialist for guidance. Today, we are joined with Sheika, and she's going to share a little bit about herself, her company, and then we're going to get right into the questions because I know you're all like, ooh, this is good. HR is fun and not fun at the same time. So welcome to the show, Sheika.
Hi, Erica. It is so good to be here. I am totally excited about this experience. One of my favorite topics to discuss. Once again, I'm Sheika Petteway. I am CEO of Elite Educational Enterprises, an accredited professional development training company for early childhood leaders and educators. And so we believe that all training should inspire, empower, and inform. And so that's what we seek to do each and every day, inform, inspire, and empower every time we train, teach, coach, consult. And so I'm here today excited about being here to do exactly that as it relates to HR.
I love it. And we're so excited. We're just like, let's just get to it. You know, this is honestly a conversation I was having last night with my niece, who is our HR team, but sometimes we're like, oh, where does this fall? So I'm very excited for my own personal gain. I will not lie. So let's start with the big picture. When we say HR in childcare business, what actually falls under that umbrella? Let's identify it.
So I guess this is a great question. One thing I want to say before going into the answer is being small doesn't make you too small for an HR or problem.
Mm-hmm.
So having a small, center, medium, large HR problems come no matter what size.
Don't
so
you
I
know
do want to establish that. No matter what size, it makes you the perfect size for a problem, I should say. So when working with people, building relationships, you have to understand HR issues is going to arise. So getting into the heart of the question and what falls under HR, let's just say compliance and records. So if we're categorizing this, compliance and records, pay and classification, that's very important to understand. Employee life cycle. So how they function in a job, onboarding, orientation, that's what I mean when I say employee life cycle. Risk and safety, that workman's comp, that injury reporting, workplace safety, all of that. And culture and retention, that's what we leave out of HR. that those training records, the retention plan, that is what falls directly under HR.
Okay, that's a lot of things. So for a center that's like maybe doesn't have a team, how do they divvy that up? Because that's a lot, right? That's a lot of things. How do they like maybe break down? What do they need to know? Who do they divvy it up to? Is it all on the owner? Are there other people within the organization that maybe could take a piece? Like if you have an education coordinator, or what are your thoughts about that?
And so, going into that question with an answer, one thing I do want to say is I'm speaking as an operator and a trainer, not as an attorney. So if anyone is listening to the podcast and taking advice, I want you to make sure that you seek legal counsel. I
Hmm.
want you to make sure that you follow all state guidelines, rules, regulations, and everything. But one thing I would say is making sure, kind of going deeper into that question, is just making sure you have some viable thing in place. Okay, so that handbook that matches exactly what you do. Okay.
Okay.
And so making sure that it's signed, making sure that that employee acknowledges what the agreement is, right? Because we're not managing people, we're really managing agreements.
Okay.
Having that written job description, making sure that there's a file system in place, making sure that you have accurate time tracking. And so there's just a list of different things that we can have in place. So I just wanted to make sure that we kind of stick with those. Those are kind of the foundational, and then we can kind of dive deeper later on as you ask more questions.
Okay. What are some of the most common HR mistakes that you see a small business make?
Oh my goodness. Documentation is one of the biggest. And so it's documenting conclusions instead of of behavior. So backdating, not really just going back and going into different records and backdating, just not having really the integrity piece is major. Only documenting the problems that people bring up. And so not really the process, the procedure, the SOP wasn't followed, but the feelings, if I should say, I want to bring that into light, just dealing in the feelings field. HR is really factual. And so, your opinion and different things. What was the policy? Was the policy broken? Did you train on the policy? Was the policy acknowledged? Is the employee aware? And so no signature line. That's another one that I see. You may have just something that you sent an email or just something that you posted in the employee lounge. No copy was given to the employee as well. Making changes within the policy and not going back for that modification with the employees is a big mistake that a lot of owners make, not just in early childhood and directors, but that piece right there, making those changes and not sending out a memo. Documentation that's scattered from sticky notes to text messages, just scattered documents. So I would say those are some of the common ones, not just kind of having that structure, that system, that 3-point where you can have that clean documentation of, is it clear? Do we understand? And how did I help you to achieve your goal? Or how did I help you achieve this policy?
Thank you. That's a great answer. So for somebody who doesn't have an SOP, because I would imagine if they've got a text, a sticky and all that, they probably aren't creating or haven't created an SOP. So what are maybe some of the things that they should have on that checklist?
Okay, with SOPs, I always say think of it, it's not like your employee manual. SOPs is the step-by-step guide. It's more detailed. It's who do it, how it's done, who to report to, the sequence it's done in. And so as it relates to SOPs, I always tell directors start small with that. So it can be as detailed as diaper changing, right? This is a common thing that happened in an early childhood educational field. Maybe that teacher is gathering supplies to change a diaper, forgot something, get the child up there, decide to walk away to go grab it. Child rolls off of the countertop, the diaper changing table. SOP is gather items, step 1. Step
Yeah.
2, so that step by step process may not be in a employee manual. So when the incident occurs and you have to go to documentation, it's all word of mouth. Well, I told you how to change a diaper.
Mm-hmm.
It's not written anywhere. It's not a part of any log. It's not a part of a documented training. One of the reasons as a training company, I love what we do so much here at Elite, because even on our certificates, we have a detail. We have the training topic and we have the different modules listed. The detailed information that was discussed within the
Mm-hmm.
training, our learning outcomes, because all of these things can be used to help facilitate a better coaching and consulting. Because again, we're not hiring people, right, to write them up or to bring them through this HR
Yeah.
this, this this process of an argument. It's just a matter of the documentation, the beginning process really helps cultivate a great employee, training, and make them know that, listen, I have you, you have me, we're together. We're in this together. We didn't ultimately start this relationship to end it like a marriage. And so
Right.
how we invest in it, how we grow in it all can manifest differently at the end of what we put it in. And so that's starting at the top with good training. And so, that SOPs is where it started. And so that's the step-by-step process. And I want, as people are listening, to think of the small things. Like I said, hand washing. You may have a guide near the sink, 30 seconds, do this, do this. You want to make sure hand washing part of your SOPs, and it's detailed as how long and just different things. And so as things come up, you want to make sure and ensure you add that to your SOP. If it's standard procedure for when children leave the playground, how they leave. Step one, we gather our friends, we do a face to name count. Number two, things like that. So that's what I would encourage with SOP.
Thank you. At what point should a childcare owner consider working with an HR specialist or a consultant? Because again, there's so many compliance things. There's just so much to do that sometimes you feel like you don't get to do the part that you really enjoy, which is teaching and working with children and your teen. So when should somebody consider working with an HR specialist?
I honestly would say for most owners, I would, no matter what, when I own my business, consider working with an HR specialist. No matter how big, if it's something you can put in your budget, as soon as you can, and at whatever level, the earlier the better, because you start with systems, right? So can invest in a specific person. Can invest in maybe once a year, maybe quarterly, sitting with them, maybe, and just increase that. But I would say from the beginning, because as you're expecting to grow, right? You don't want to wait until you have grown and then it's out of
Mm.
control. You already have lost. You already have so many complaints. You're losing staff because your director could be strong in ECE, but not in on
Yeah.
business and operations. So if you're a director that's not working in the environment, I would say start now. When you
Yeah.
hear this podcast, when you hear Erica's voice introduce this topic, it will be a great time to start. And so it's never too late. It's never
Yeah.
too late and it's never too early.
Yeah, I would say at a minimum, oh my goodness, I would say at a minimum, if you didn't work with anybody when you first opened up, at a minimum, get with someone, show them what you have in place and help
Yes.
you find the gaps, and at a minimum, if you can't have somebody on a regular basis, at least once a year or when your regulations change, or, I would at a minimum do that. But you absolutely need to have somebody who is specializing in HR look over all of your documentation to make sure you're covered. And
Yeah.
as you said earlier, and your lawyer, right? These are people that should be part of your A team, right? Your banker, your lawyer, your
Yes,
bookkeeper,
girl.
your
Yes.
HR specialist. You need these people to protect yourself. What kind of situations can an HR professional help leaders navigate before they become much bigger problems?
I would say terminations, of course.
Mm,
I would
those are
say
never fun.
those are never fun. Risk management issues. Listen, if you had someone you can call when there is a risk management issue that arises, that would be lovely, especially at step one, step two.
Yeah.
talking points to speak with the parent, talking points to speak with the employee, how to really handle things in a confidential, discretional way. I would definitely say HR terminations. I would also say medical FMLA things, right?
Mm,
Sometimes you just have an employee that make a statement like, my back has been bothering me a lot in this room, and you
mhm.
just, fly over it or different things like that. So making sure that you know and understand how to read the room when people make
Yeah,
statements in front of you, because everyone isn't direct, right? I can just tell you situations where, and me as a director, where someone walked in and disclosed medical information to me I didn't ask. It's just like, I need to be off every other week because of this. And I'm like, whew, it's almost like you wish they don't disclose it. Because now that you know this information, you're now accountable to be able to make certain accommodations. And so sometimes when you don't know, it's a little better, but you have to be prepared for when people
sure.
drop bombs on you of personal information that it's just a lot. And then you have to be prepared for secretive people. People who just, I shouldn't say secretive, people who just would love for things to be confidential, right? And they're
Mhm.
keeping it to themselves and they just need to understand the rules, regulations, and guidelines. And so I just had an incident. I was teaching a class probably like a month ago, and someone asked, the director owner asked in the class that they did an interview with the person, Erica. Everything went lovely. Everything was wonderful. Offered them the job, and they walked in the center on day one with a pet, an emotional, yeah. And
Support
so
animal.
they were like, my goodness, I didn't know a pet was coming. That,
Yeah.
so just different things that occur,
Mhm.
with when you have to make those adjustments, being able to be prepared for that.
Yeah, because that would definitely throw anybody off. And I
Yeah,
would say too, because of the way we're licensed, that is something that somebody would need to let you know, because you would have
exactly.
to get clearance through your state regulation for certain pets, right? And
Yeah.
rabies shots and there's other documentation that would have to be, yeah, would have to be part of that. So let's
Yeah.
talk about documentation. I know you said that was kind of one of the big ones where people mess up or they're scrambling looking for things. What should directors and owners be documenting when it comes to employee performance, conversations, coaching? I mean, the list can go on, but let's start with performance, because that's a big one.
So as it relates to performance, I kind of want to start in the beginning, because sometimes what happens is we wait until it's a performance where we don't agree with, and then we want to start documenting.
Mm-hmm.
That's not where it starts. It starts in the beginning. So how you coordinate the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
I teach a class called Hire to Inspire. We start with coordination. All of this has something to do with documenting the performance in the end. Coordinating your time, your requirements. If it's early morning, if you're looking for an early riser, if they're an early morning person, they're a morning person. All of this is very essential. Then you have your job description. And so sometimes what we do, we get job descriptions offline. We may see something we like. We may use AI. All this is great, but you really, really need to look in this description and determine, and I shouldn't say determine, put in some things that is very specific to your layout of your building, what you really, really, really need specifically for that
Mm-hmm.
job. Sometimes it's so general, adding something that's more specific. Then now we are into performance, right? So what we actually expect each and every day from the behaviors from this employee. Do we have training? We have required training within our states. The training that we have is aligned with what we want them to develop it. We're just not randomly sending them to trainings. We're trying to coach them to
I'm laughing because my education coordinator is
very
literally in
strategic.
the next room over working on that for our staff. So she's looking at
Yeah,
their professional development plans and she's like, okay, this is, these are the things that these people get, because if not, they usually pick the areas they
exactly.
like art with toddlers. You don't need art
Right,
with toddlers. You need child development 101, honey.
right.
Yeah.
Right. You really need teacher-child interactions because this is
Hmm.
very low. And so in performance, when we're doing this, it has to be strategic. If your 2-year-old room is struggling with potty training, your 3-year-old teachers are struggling with the transition because half of them come into her and not even have been introduced. So we're gonna go and start strategically looking for potty training,
Hmm.
maybe some guidance and discipline with biting, specifically biting. We've been seeing that a lot. And so all of this is performance development, right? So
Hmm.
what have you invested into the development to be able to appraise, right? And so even when I teach owners and directors, when you're sending them to training, when they come back, you financially invested in this. When they
Yeah.
come back, what can they use, or do you see a change? Is it consistent? Is it something you can take the certificate, take the brochure and sit down with them and say, hey, you went to this specific session, right? And so it was talking about this. What did you get out of it? I see you doing this. I see this. This is an area. And so now I'm in that performance improvement, And so one of the things documentation wise, I love to use a guide is a performance improvement plan, a
Hmm.
PIP. And so this is all about nurturing. This is all about coaching. This is all about getting, like I said, we're not going in a relationship saying, I'm looking to document. So if I have to fire you, if termination happens in the end, it's going to show how well of a director I've tried. This is not
Hmm.
me saying I have all this stuff because we're fighting against you.
Right.
Listen, when we part ways, I have people that I have terminated and they sit there and they say, you were one of the, I knew you cared. This is just
Hmm.
not, a place for me. I can't
Hmm.
keep up or with the expectation. It's because it's clear. So my thing is performance improvement plans, skill-based analysis, things like that. This is a skill and area I want you to work in. Maybe it's, that teacher maybe talk at kids and not really have that the proper language that's needed that's a little more gentle. So a lot, not just guidance, but that interaction piece is missing. So we're looking for strategic things. And I'm not talking about just going to training, but my improvement process is me also one-on-one coaching. So scheduling those one-on-ones. And it can be powerful for 15, 10 minutes because I know as early childhood leaders and directors, sometimes you feel like you don't have the time in a day. It's just like, how do I get it all done? So small pieces of just that 10-minute, that 15-minute block to say, I'm going to take 10 minutes. I'm going in the room with her and she knows I'm coming. We have one goal and I'm going to help her with transitions. And so I'm going to do it. She's going to do it and we're going to do it together. So it gives her opportunity to watch, for me to watch, and then for me to coach. And she knows I'm coming. So I'm not a surprise. I'm not throwing her off her game. And not only that, she knows I care. I'm not coming in here to find errors. I'm coming in here to enhance. And so
Yeah.
HR and coaching and delegating and all of these amazing things is about mindset, not just this checklist, this task, this people have to know you care. When they know you care and they know that you are here to help them, then they're more open to really performance in improving their performance. And it's not something that I'm angry and talk to you about. It's something that I'm ready for the conversation because I have personal goals that I want to talk to you about. There's ways that I want to learn from you as my director. And so then when you get them into that mindset shift, it's easier.
Hmm.
HR is not looked at as this shotgun that's coming through
Yeah.
the daycare.
Yeah.
It's looked at in a different form.
Yeah. It's almost like where you set your standards and then the framework of this is how we keep those standards, meet the standards, support those standards. To me, that's the way that I look at it. And it's like the welcome wagon, like should be there to make people feel welcome, to have a safe space, to have a place. Like we have HR because I'm an owner and I'm like, if you have an issue with me, you get to talk with our HR team and the other owner. Like I'm not in that room,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So you
Right.
have to set right because you need your people to feel that they have a place where they can be seen and heard and valued and safe. Psychological safety is so important.
My.
Yes, absolutely. So as we start to wrap up, I can't even believe it. We've already been talking for a half hour. We probably could go on for an hour. For an owner who's listening today, who's thinking, I know I need help with this, but I don't know where to start, what would you tell them to do first?
I would start with inventorying your day, right? I would start there as it relates from a HR compliance standpoint. And you just assessing the last person maybe you hired, right? And so are they still with you? Do you feel that you have properly helped them? Do you feel like if you had more time, what would you do? Do you feel like your manual was something that they can take with real life examples, right? Sometimes we have a manual and now AI, when I started, we didn't have AI. So we're doing,
Yeah, AI
you
is
know,
helpful.
so, AI have all these great and wonderful things. And people are reading this and they're thinking, well, what does that mean? How does this apply? So I would say start with, you may have a wonderful manual, but going through it and putting little boxes of examples. One thing I
Mhm.
love about Texas and our minimum standards, for each standard, at the end of the standard, in the gray box, it's called a technical assistance, and they give an example of that standard. And so I say, as I coach and mentor directors, I'll put an example. So if you have a policy on attendance, I would say underneath that policy, for example, texting me is not a form of calling in. This
Yes.
is how you do. So you can have this wonderful statement. What I'm saying is where to start is those example boxes. Then I definitely want to leave you with this. This has been a game changer that I've been doing and I've been teaching directors to do in the staff meeting when you're rolling out new policies. Everyone learns differently. So we have our visual learners, we have our kinesthetic learners. We can go through the list. When you're rolling out different policies, don't just put them in paper and roll them out and hand out. Give that example. Maybe come two people. I need two people
You're
from
going
the
to role
audience.
play?
Role play. Have it
Yes.
visually on the screen. So when you professionally have a staff meeting, use visuals. Get yourself a PowerPoint presentation or take that document and put it on the screen. Because some people will not sit there and read it in paper, but they'll look at the screen and connect with it. Some people need the paper. They will highlight. They will, well, what do you mean by this? But when you do that scenario, that other group will see how it applies to the practical piece and they connect with it. So don't go too fast by just throwing it out and see, what I'm saying works, because the last time, I want you to think about this, who's listening, when you wrote out a policy and you say, well, if I see a cell phone, I'm going to do this, that, and you still see a cell phone. Because when you're talking in general, everyone thinks you're talking to the person next to them. They didn't take this information for them. So that's one of the reasons why you're going to teach this multiple ways. And then you cannot be afraid to have the one-on-one and directly talk to people. Hey, I noticed this. I'm just telling you, I want you to keep an eye for this. It's against our policy. And have that gentle conversation to make sure you redirect the behavior and let them know, what happens after if this policy is continued. And this was a verbal. And so that's one of the things we don't like to follow up, and we fear that confrontation. And so we put it off and it makes it into a bigger problem later, when in the beginning, this could have just been not come in my office, let's sit. That makes it more stressful for you too, because everyone is not direct, or should I say love, confrontation. Some people break stomach pains and directors, oh my God, I just want to miss work myself. And you dread the job that you love because of this piece. So help yourself by creating the policy. It's not you, it's the policy that is saying it. That's another way to look at it. So I would say that.
Yeah. Thank you. It was so much knowledge in this little bit of time we had together. If today's conversation made you realize there are areas in HR in your program that you need to strengthen, do not ignore that feeling. Start with one thing. review your policies, look at your documentation process, and make sure the leaders, know that how difficult it is to do what you're doing, but make sure that your leaders, your team, if you have a team or if it's you, that you have what you need and have those difficult conversations. And if you're afraid of those difficult conversations, we've got about 4 or 5 episodes on that. Scroll through our library. We've got like 630 episodes on this podcast platform. Scroll through it. We've got supports for you here. Or bring it to a professional in the HR support that you need. We're going to put all of our guests' contact information below in the show notes so that you can reach out to her if you have questions or you'd like to be a client. I'm sure are you still taking clients? I didn't even ask you that. You are. All right. Well, so we'll put that down in the show notes below. And if you want to learn more, at least set up a discovery call with her. If there's anything else that you want from me, hit me up in the text to show section. It's right there on your listening platform. And as always, thank you so much to our sponsors at WatchMeGrow. They have a wonderful camera system that can help support your families, your teachers, your program, and of course, your HR team. So as always, guys, thank you for tuning in. We love you here at the Childcare Director Share podcast, and we hope that you have a great day.
Before you go, ask yourself, what's one leadership lesson you'll put into action this week? Then share one takeaway with your leadership team, because Erica believes that great leaders don't just grow themselves, they help others grow too. Ready to keep growing? Join Erica inside the ECE Trailblazers Leadership Membership at childcaredirectorschair.com. Proudly sponsored by WatchMeGrow. Together, we believe leadership isn't a title, it's an action. And we'll save your chair for next time.